Good afternoon, everybody. We're waiting for a few more people to get on, but we're going to get started, if that's okay with you all. And thanks for joining me. I'm here. The FEMA director is on. FEMA Director Criswell, she's on. And I'm here with my senior advisor and boy who knows Louisiana very, very well, man. And New Orleans, and Cedric Richmond.
What is good, Osiris? Here, stuck in the middle. That was our current president referring to one of his senior advisors as boy. Nothing to see here. Thanks for joining. What made me revisit this was the discussion about the AP that was happening all over Twitter. This is in regards to the statue of General Robert E. Lee being taken down in Richmond, Virginia. The AP, Associated Press, I quote, described Robert E. Lee as a Civil War hero, now widely seen as a symbol of racial injustice. They said, state officials said. Nobody cares about AP saying that we're saying that the state officials say that. That's not our position. What happens is, this is a great example of using race as a weapon. The discussion about Robert E. Lee is very much related to the Joe Biden issue of calling a black Southerner like Cedric Richmond a boy.
Boy who knows Louisiana very, very well.
This reply summed up all of the feedback coming from the left, pretty much, on this article. It said, Civil War hero is a funny way to describe someone who led an armed rebellion against the United States so that his fellow Southerners could continue owning slaves. First of all, when have you ever heard a Democrat from the left proudly talking about the idea of the United States? That hasn't happened in a long time. So it's fake righteousness. It's phony. It's insulting. I actually did a video on the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner, and as a side note, during that video, I actually talked about where this term boy comes from. Because we all got European American names. Because back then, when they took slaves from Africa, they couldn't pronounce their real names. So they're like, we're not messing with that. You're going to be the Gilmore family now. You're going to be the Smith family now. Because you're the Mr. Smith, and they would disrespectfully call you boy. That's why you don't call people boy. Let me just give you a quick hot tip. What happened is, in slavery, they would call me like, hey, you're Mr. Smith's boy. Come here. Come here, Mr. Smith's boy. That's what they would say. So that's how we got our names. The term boy comes from the exact same roots General Robert E. Lee was trying to defend. So when you hear this person say, hey, how could you call him a Civil War hero? He was trying to defend the right for Southerners to own slaves. Joe Biden just called his senior advisor a boy that came literally out of slavery. Not a peep. Where are the crickets? The basement doesn't have crickets right now. That's what it is. This is not a one-off for Joe Biden. He has a history over 6 decades of racially insensitive remarks. Joe Biden spoke fondly of the Mississippi senators back in the day who were very, very anti-civil rights, segregationists. These are the Dixiecrats from the South. He spoke fondly of James O. Eastland. James O. Eastland, in one sense, said the white race is the superior race.
With James O. Eastland, Mr. Biden said, briefly channeling the late Mississippi senator's Southern drawl, Mr. Biden said of Mr. Eastland, he never called me boy. He always called me son. You don't joke about calling black men boys. Men like James O. Eastland used words like that and the racist policies that accompanied them to perpetuate white supremacy and strip black Americans of our very humanity. Frankly, I'm disappointed that he hasn't issued an immediate apology for the pain his words are dredging up for many Americans. He should.
How does it feel that your Democratic rivals are implicitly saying that you have issues talking about race?
They know better.
Are you going to apologize? Like Cory Booker
Apologize for what?
Cory Booker's called for it.
Cory should apologize. He knows better.
Why did he do these type of things? He spoke at Robert Byrd's funeral. Robert Byrd literally started a local chapter of the KKK back in the 40s.
As also noted, Robert C. Byrd was a parliamentary library, a keeper of the institution of the Senate, and he was the institution itself. But to me, And many people here today, like guys I see, Bill Bradley and Jim Sasser, who've long left the Senate for greener pastures, and I hope better remuneration. We used to kid about that too, but for a lot of us, he was a friend, and he was a mentor, and he was a guide.
Joe Biden, speaking to Robert Byrd's family, said, if you didn't already know it, it's pretty clear the incredible esteem your father was held in. Joe Biden, I don't know what's in his heart, so I'm not going to call somebody racist or anything like that. That is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to provide context of, don't tell me that Joe Biden calling a black Southerner boy is just something that's in the vacuum. It's because he stutters or something like that. Don't do that. There's context. Let's ask him and see what he says. It's funny Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't get along. They are cut from the same cloth. They're just super, like they all are in DC, self-aspirational sleazebags. What they do is they will do anything, associate with anyone, and do anything it takes to rise up to power.
And now you guys seem to be pals.
It was a debate.
Not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
So you don't mean it.
It was a debate.
It doesn't matter what they have to do. It doesn't matter who they have to trample. It doesn't matter who they have to associate themselves with. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, y'all should at least respect each other. Got the same game. I'm not done yet. Judge Joe Brown spoke recently to Kwame Brown about a speech he heard Joe Biden make in person.
That racist dog, what I heard the first time in 1972 when I was doing an intern thing at a DC think tank, Joe Biden, who got up there, and when the speech he gave, I mean, I was really offended. I heard it right outside the state capitol building in Dover, which was a rundown, ransackled old house, 250 years old. And he said, Negro children are like roaches. If they're allowed to integrate the schools, they will infest them and they will never be gotten out. Negro.
Who said that? Joe Biden said that?
Yeah, I heard it. Saw him.
I can't corroborate this. I searched real quick to see if I could corroborate this. I couldn't corroborate it. But in 2017, this happened, which is well known. Get your barf bags ready. The hairy leg incident. Ugh.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I tell you what.
When Joe Biden said roaches, who is he talking about?
So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap.
There's no direct link between the comment roaches and black people, but his team, his administration has never responded to that. They never answered what he was talking about. In that same speech, he said, I'm a kid from suburbia. I didn't know any black people. No, I really didn't. So I wanted to work here at this pool that was known to have a lot of black people there. If you're not familiar about the history of the term roaches and black people, you might think about just in general, not just black people, but poor people might have roaches in their home. It's expensive to get them exterminated out. They're infestacious and they represent lower class, generally speaking. But back in the days of slavery, Nicole Hannah-Jones, for example, talking about the 1619 Project, she would know this better than anyone. But of course, Joe Biden would never draw her ire in this way. That establishment role she has will get chopped just like that. But she knows this and many others in academia. When black Africans were brought here on boats, they were in the bottom of the boats, just put there, stacked up like books, all up on top of each other. Many died. Who cared? They were just property. And it was filthy, all kinds of nastiness there. There weren't toilets. So you had roaches that came through from Africa on the boats, came through, and they were associated with black slaves. all tied into, you said you were, how could you call this guy a hero who was defending slavery? And you research the term boy and some of Biden's history, and it ties right into Robert E. Lee. What's my point? My point is, number one, not to support the GOP. A lot of people, when you criticize Democrats, they assume you're here to support another party. It's because they don't want to talk about the merits of the discussion. They want to justify their votes and their positions. But I've been consistent. The GOP establishment and establishment Democrats, they are in the same nightclub, and you can't get in that club. The GOP, they're not the bouncers. They're in the back sipping on bottles, while the Democrats, they're enjoying the party, dancing, bottles, and everything. But they are the gatekeepers. They own culture. They own education. They own framing. They own the media. So they're the bodyguards that keep everyone else out. So if someone like Trump wants to get in and he infiltrated the GOP and controls it, the strong arm that's going to get Trump out of there is not going to be the GOP. How are they going to get him out of there? They don't own control of any type of culture or opinion in our country. It will be the Democrats. That's why the criticism has to go there. They're the bouncers.
Place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
My whole point of this is to create awareness and to say, you have no power over using me for your political aspirations. I'm grateful for Maj Toure. He put on this Solutions Summit, and I don't agree with Maj on everything, and I'm not a huge follower of Maj, but I did follow this Solutions Summit. Eric July was there, so that did keep my interest. Angela Stanton was also a part of putting it on, so props to everyone involved. It was really good to find out about people I didn't know about. Tone Trump is someone I never knew. So there's this rapper, he goes by Tone Trump, I believe. I don't know if it has to do with Donald Trump or not. Didn't seem like it, because he was a real humble dude that didn't seem like he was like rah-rah Trump or any type of party affiliation or even MAGA, that type of thing. I don't know, though. I have to research. But my point is, he made some great points. And this point he made ties right into this video. He said something to the effect that you can tell who paid for the opposition by where the ire, where the hate, where the weapon of the opposition is being pointed at, and who it's not being pointed at. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care.
They're definitely unified. And one thing about the entertainment industry, sports, anything that's in this influencer eye, you can always tell who write the checks by who people are scared to talk bad about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're definitely unified. And one thing about the entertainment industry, sports, anything that's in this influencer eye, you can always tell who write the checks by who people are scared to talk bad about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,